Chapter 9. Candy from the Sky. One day in the autumn of 2007, we were sitting in class when we heard a fearsome roaring from outside. Everyone, students and teachers, ran out to the courtyard and looked up. A swarm of giant black army helicopters darkened the sky overhead. They whipped the wind around us and stirred up a storm of dirt and sand. We cupped our hands over our ears and tried to yell at one another, but our voices were drowned in the din. Then there was a plunk as something landed on the ground at our feet. Plunk, plunk, plunk. We screamed and then we cheered. Toffees! The soldiers were tossing candy down to us. We laughed our heads off as we went scrambling to catch toffees. We were so delighted that it took us a minute to understand what was going on. The army had come to the rescue SWAT from Fazula. We cheered and clapped and jumped up and down. Candy was falling from the sky, and peace would be coming to SWAT. Soon soldiers were everywhere. Helicopters were even parked on the Mingora golf course. It was strange to see the army and SWAT. We'd been praying for someone to stand up to the Fazula and his men with their black turbans and Kashanov rifles. But now our town was swarming with men in green uniforms and Kashanov rifles. Practically overnight, Fazula's men disappeared, like snow melting into the ground. But although we could not see them anymore, we knew they had not gone far. Only a few kilometres away, Mingora remained a tense and frightened city. Each day after school, my brothers and I would race home and lock the doors. No more playing cricket in the alley, no more hide and seek in the street, no more candy from the sky. One evening we heard an announcement from the loudspeaker atop the mosque. The army had imposed a curfew. We didn't know this word curfew, so I knocked on the wall to Safina's house so that someone next door would come to the hole in the wall and explain. Soon Safina and her mother and brother came to our house and told us it meant we had to stay indoors for certain hours of the day and always at night. My brothers and I were so scared we didn't even come out of our rooms. We stayed inside and peered through the curtains at the empty street in front of our house. That night, a streak of bright white light flashed across the sky, lighting the room for a second like a flashbulb on a camera. Boom! A thud shook the ground. I jumped out of bed and ran to my parents. Kushel and Atul came running to join us. We all huddled together, shaking. The dishes clattered, the furniture shook, and the windows rattled. Then, within minutes, the army's gunfire began in the outskirts of the city. With each blast and shot, we gripped one another harder until we drifted off to sleep. The next morning, we woke up as if we were coming out of a long, fitful dream. After a night full of bombing, the air seemed oddly still. We dared to hope. Was it possible that the army had defeated the Taliban? We peeked out at the gate and saw knots of people from the neighbourhood gossiping. My father went to find out what had happened. He came back inside frowning. The rumour on the street, the Taliban were going to take control of SWAT. The military operation was ineffective. Our hearts sank. The army was sent 10,000 more men and the fighting raged on, night after night for a year and a half. I was always the first to run to our parents, and my brothers quickly followed. And since the bed was now too crowded, I had to sleep on a pile of blankets on the floor. Even in the middle of the war, I was able to be irritated with those two for stealing my spot. Strange as it sounds, we got used to the bombing and shelling. Sometimes a towel slept through it. And Kushel and I came up with a system to figure out where the fighting was. If the fighting was nearby, the electricity went out. If it was farther away, the power stayed on. There were 3 types of attack, and we learned to distinguish them. Bombing was done only by the Taliban, sometimes by remote control, but other times by suicide bombers. Shelling from helicopters and cannons fired from mountain tops was the army. The 3rd type, machine guns, was used by both. I used to get afraid at night, especially during the bomb blasts. From my spot on the floor in my parents' room, I recited a special verse from the Holy Quran, the Ayat al-Kursi. Say it 3 times and your home will be safe from devils and any kind of danger. Say it 5 times and your neighbourhood is safe. Say it 7 times and your whole town is safe. I said it 7, 8, 9 times, so many times I lost track. Then I spoke to God. Bless us and protect us, I'd say. Bless our father and family. Then I'd correct myself. No, bless our street. No, our neighbourhood. Bless all of SWAT. Then I'd say, no, bless all of Pakistan. No, not just Pakistan. Bless all the world. I tried to plug my ears and picture my prayers floating up to God. Somehow each morning we awoke safe and sound. I didn't know the fate of all the other people I prayed for, but I wished for peace for everyone, and especially peace for SWAT. One day my prayer was answered. The army hadn't won, but it had at least driven the Taliban into hiding, if not away.